Hello everyone and welcome to today's Chrissy B Show. Now today is Makeover Day and you don't get many people more deserving than my special guest today, Diana Ojera. Having battled through abandonment, rape and suicidal thoughts, Diana has come out fighting and we'll hear her moving story later on. But first, to treat Diana is our lovely makeup artist Ursula Jones, who will also be giving us her top tips on choosing the right eyeliner for your eye shape. We also have Dermatologist Anton Alexandroff, who'll be letting us know how to keep ourselves safe in the sun. And we'll be looking at the advantages of herbalism with herbalist Claudia Manchanda. Then at the end of the show, I'll be giving you my tips on how you can stay mentally strong even through the toughest of times. Now, like Diana, there are many children and adults across the country who have had to experience parental abandonment, in particular by fathers. In fact, research undertaken by NatSen Research Group found that 130,000 fathers have lost contact with children from early relationships. That's around 1 in 5. We'll also hear how Diana was tragically raped at just 14 years old. Rape Crisis report that they handled 1,700 cases last year involving those under the age of 15, an increase of 13% from last year. And that's just from the cases that are actually known about. But what's really important to take from Diana's story is the importance of getting the right help. Well, we wanted to hear some of your thoughts on recovery, so we checked out Twitter. Alexis says, I want to live in a world where people can talk about their mental illnesses recovery without judgment and hate. Posey says, if you're suffering from mental health issues, please consider therapy. Recovery is possible, recovery is beautiful. Akash says, make your own recovery, physical and mental both, the first priority in your life. And that's quoting Robin Norwood. And our Lovelace says, taking the afternoon off for some mental health recovery was exactly what I needed, but now I'm back on the grind. So thanks for your thoughts there, and I look forward to meeting Diana later on in the show to hear her story. But first, as you know, we're always looking for ways to improve your physical health as well as your mental health. And today, we're very excited to turn our attention to herbalism. I'm delighted to be joined now by herbalist Claudia Manchanda. Welcome to the show, Claudia.
Hiya.
So you're going to tell us all about herbalism today.
I hope to.
Okay, what is it in a nutshell, first of all?
Herbalism or herbal medicine is basically using plants as medicine, but also using plants as preventative medicine. So you don't have to use herbal medicine for when you're ill. In fact, they're better for prevention than when you've actually got sick.
Okay.
But they also do work for when you're ill. And herbal medicine's been around since humanity. And there are ancient records of herbal medicine going back to cave people where they found like pieces of yarrow stuck in their teeth and people with illnesses in ancient Egypt with the medicines buried with them.
Okay.
So basically we've evolved alongside plants. So herbal medicine is basically using the drugs that are in plants as medicine, but what's quite different from sort of mainstream drugs is that in each plant are many chemicals.
Okay, and chemicals that are good for us, right? Not the type that harm us?
I mean, plant chemicals are varied. I mean, a quarter of all pharmaceutical drugs are derived from plants. So aspirin comes from willow bark or meadowsweet. The heart drug digoxin comes from foxglove. Plants can be very safe and they can be very dangerous as well.
Just have to know how to use them in the right way.
Exactly. I mean, that's why people do 4-year degrees like me, to learn actually how to use plants as medicine. And then the other point that I wanted to make about herbal medicine is there are many different traditions throughout the world. So I learned something called Western herbal medicine, which is a bit of a misnomer because it takes herbs from all over the world, but it uses scientific medicine as the basis and looks at the science and the chemicals in plants. But there are other systems in the world, like there's traditional Greek medicine, there's Ayurveda, there's Chinese traditional medicine and just Chinese medicine. And they look at the energetics of plants and the energetics of humans. So the kind of plant medicine that I've learned sort of incorporates everything.
Okay. So you're going to be giving us a few tips today as well, Claudia. But can you tell us why are plants actually good for physical and mental health?
Well, I mean, I just bought some things from the shop up the road just to show you a bit. So let me I'll pick some things up. Okay. So this looks like a bog standard lettuce to you, but the ancient varieties of wild lettuce have been used in medicine. They contain something called a latex. So if you actually pull a bit of the plant out, a white sap will come out. And within the white sap are something called bitter principles. And bitter principles will actually, the chemicals will touch the bitter taste buds in the back of your mouth and make you start secreting digestive enzymes. Your pancreas will work, and so your digestion will be better, and you start to detox chemicals.
Oh, okay.
Also, within lettuce, of all things, things called opiates. They're things that are sedatives, and they're traditionally used for anxiety. Lettuces have traditionally been boiled up. Not this actual breed of lettuce, but wild lettuce has been used as an opiate to actually calm people down in extreme anxiety. But even eating lettuces in your salad will make you feel calmer.
Wow, I didn't know that at all. I just thought it just tasted nice.
But and also just another thing that's in common with a lot of plants is they've got green, and green is chlorophyll, and chlorophyll and green plants have energy from the sun that actually sort of transfer into our body, and the chlorophyll is a bit like our hemoglobin. It helps us oxygenate. So, I mean, there are a lot of recommendations about eating 5 a day, but the more sort of vegetables and eating a range of colours really helps our well-being and our mental health.
Okay. Anything there in particular that will be good? Well, you mentioned one for the anxiety. Anything else that's very good for anxiety, would you say?
Probably not particularly in this lot, because this is just stuff I picked up from the shop. But I mean, quite a few of these chemicals in these plants probably do affect neurotransmission, which is actually chemical messages in our nerves and our brains. I'm just trying to have a look. This is ginger. Yeah. And this is ginger powder, and this is fresh ginger. But both of these will actually affect our circulation. So if we're feeling sluggish, they can actually open up your blood vessels.
Maybe lift your mood as well?
Possibly slightly. I mean, there would be herbs better for lifting your mood, like lemon balm, and there's something called wood betony. There are some other plants that are sort of better for actually elevating your mood. A very nice herbal remedy for lifting the mood is rose. Like rose petals, and it's traditional in a lot of cultures. And in herbal medicine, a lot of the actual technical name is called thymoleptic, and that means to lift, to elevate your mood. A lot of those plants are flowers. And in a lot of herbal medicine, if you want grounding, you eat the roots, and if you want elevating for your mood, you have the flowers. It's quite a trend.
That's interesting. So maybe you can go through some of these things on the table and just tell us what each one is good for, whether physical or mental.
Well, look, these are just general ones. So this one is just one I picked up from my kitchen cupboard, and it's called Gymnema sylvestra.
Never heard of that one before.
It's quite a bitter herb, and it lowers your blood sugar. So if you've had loads of sweet things, you release insulin, and insulin is a depressant. It actually can make you feel quite low. I don't know if you've ever binged out on sugar.
Yes.
And then you just sit there feeling like that, and then you often go to have something sweet again. Also, having a lot of blood sugar in your system is linked to a lot of chronic conditions. So Gymnema, as well as just cinnamon that you have in your cupboard, they actually help regulate your blood sugar. And this herb is what one of the diabetic drugs, metformin, was made from. So I just thought it's just quite interesting how powerful plants are. So this is one that I have if I'm feeling a bit like I've had too many carbs, and I have a drink, and it
just makes it in water, do you?
Yes, and it regulates my blood sugar. Brilliant. This is just garden thyme.
Yeah, I love that.
It probably is quite uplifting actually as a tea. It contains things called volatile oils, and that means it's the smelly things.
Yeah, I can smell it. I mean, I can smell it from here. Yeah, I love the smell of thyme.
And all plants with volatile oils affect your circulation, and they are antiseptic and antibiotic. So this particular type of thyme is very good for colds. You were asking me earlier about sinuses. It's quite good. It's quite good for any kind of respiratory tract infection. So that's your nose, or if you've got a cold. I'll boil up a whole bunch of that if I feel like I'm getting a cold. I'll mix it with sage. I'll gargle with it, and I will drink loads of it. And I tend not to get a cold.
Oh wow, good tips there.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'll have that with garlic often if I feel like I'm run down. Like yesterday, I actually had a sore throat, and I boiled a whole bunch of it. And I had it with some garlic, and I feel great today.
Wow, okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
Wow. Can you tell us about the artichoke? Because I know they've got like loads of iron normally, don't they? Artichokes, or is it more than that?
This is quite an interesting one because it's seasonal, and it's generally in tradition. You know, these days we get everything in the supermarket all year round, but it's actually quite nice to eat with the seasons. It's good for our bodies, and our bodies seem to digest and assimilate things better. Now this is like a bog standard artichoke, and you'd boil it as a food. Another name for it is called the diabetic's potato. So again, it helps regulate blood sugar. It's a tonic to the liver and it's a tonic to the pancreas. But herbalists wouldn't use it by eating it. We'd actually make a tincture from it and extract with alcohol. See the colours here? We'd extract things you wouldn't get from just eating an artichoke. From the hard woody bits, you'd use an alcoholic tincture to extract these chemicals called flavolignans. And then they actually protect your liver from damage from drugs. If you're getting a hangover, you can have artichoke or you can have milk thistle. And basically it's a tonic for digestion, and it's also been clinically trialled, and it lowers high cholesterol in the blood.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, there's so many things that we didn't know about here. And the chilies.
The chilies. I bought the chilies just because we're in an area that there's lots of chilies, and these are one of the hottest chilies in the world.
It's a Scotch bonnet, isn't it, that one?
It's a Scotch bonnet. In medicine, it's basically used, you wouldn't use it for someone who's generally quite fiery and hot. You wouldn't actually use this. This would be used for someone who's quite cold in constitution. You get people who've always got cold hands, and their circulation isn't going round, so you'd use it for that. It's also used in creams as an actual anaesthetic, believe it or not.
Really?
And it makes you release a chemical from your nerves called substance P, and it's a kind of called an inhibition, and you can't feel the pain anymore because you're feeling the chili. But it's actually really quite...
the painful chili sometimes.
But it's actually quite effective, painkiller, and it's been used for thousands of years as a painkiller.
I didn't know that at all.
Yeah.
How about we've got some beetroot there as well.
Yes.
Now my dad actually used to eat the leaves as well. We used to boil them up at home and eat them with olive oil and lemon and salt. So I'm used to eating the leaves. Most people just eat the bottom part. Yeah.
I mean, beetroot's quite interesting. It can be eaten raw, it can be juiced, and it can be cooked. And for different situations, it can be used in different ways. It contains a chemical in it called choline, which it's a B vitamin, which a lot of people are deficient in. So it's quite an interesting plant. It also has these bright kind of pigmented colours called anthocyanins, and they work on your blood vessels. They help the pigmented parts of your body. Trying to think what else I can say about beetroot.
And they're very colourful and nice.
Yeah, and they're very colourful. They're full of fibre as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And just before you go as well, Claudia, what would be your top tips for those maybe considering sort of bringing more herbs into their life, and more vegetables and things like that? How if they're considering herbalism rather than
I mean, there are different levels of using herbs. So I would say it would be quite nice to buy a handbook on herbal medicine and look at sort of home remedies. There are different scales of herbs. There are herbs that you can get just over the counter, or there are herbal shops, or you can go and see a herbalist, and then you get more specialised herbs that only herbalists can sell by law. So I would say generally, if you want to self-treat, get a really good, reputable herbal book and research it, and then also look at sourcing good quality herbs from a reputable source, and preferably if you can get organic herbs so they haven't got pesticides on them. I mean, I live in the city, and I don't want to pick my herbs in the city because they'll get all the pollution and you don't know how clean the earth is, etc.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much. We do have to get you on again because all this stuff is fascinating.
I would love to.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Well, everyone, after the break, we have Ursula Jones, who'll be giving her tips on choosing the right eyeliner for your eye shape. Anton Alexandroff will be giving us some skincare tips. But first, is the following true or false? When using aerosol sunscreens, you can easily cover your body without missing a spot, therefore effectively protecting your skin. Tune in after the break to find out the correct answer. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone. Well, before the break, I asked you if the following was true or false. When using aerosol sunscreens, you can easily cover your body without missing a spot, therefore effectively protecting your skin. The answer is false. While being applied, aerosol sunscreens can lose much of their protection during the transfer from the bottle onto the skin, as not all of the molecules land on your body. Well, with all this sun we're experiencing at the moment, it's very important we know how to keep our skin safe and protected. So here to give us some advice is dermatologist Anton Alexandroff. Welcome back to the show, Anton.
Thank you very much for inviting.
No problem. So obviously, if you can just sort of let the viewers know, first of all, why is it important to look after our skin in the sun?
It is very important to look after your skin. First of all, it's a risk of skin cancers. So people have too much sunlight, they increase risk of skin cancers. Secondly, it's skin aging. So if people have a lot of sunlight, when skin ages and we have lines and wrinkles and spots, so it's much better to be sensible.
Okay. I mean, sometimes obviously people think, wow, tan looks great, it's good it looks good on the skin, but obviously over time it's more damaging than it is good for us, isn't it?
It looks good immediately, but the skin loses elasticity. So with time, it develops wrinkles and so on. And also there is a risk of skin cancers as well. So one has to be sensible, really.
Yeah, okay. So Anton, can you give us now your tips on how to be safe in the sun?
I can talk about a long time, really. But I guess the sensible things are avoid sunlight at the middle of the day. So let's say after 11 and until 3 if possible. At least avoid direct sunlight. Sun protection also very good in the way of sunscreen. So I would personally suggest go for factor 50.
50?
50.
Okay.
This is what I use myself.
Right.
And you need to reapply it time to time, especially if you swim.
Just a question on that, Anton, because sometimes my husband, for example, he has darker skin and he says he doesn't need as much sun, as such a high factor. Is that true? Is it depending on your skin colour? It varies?
To some extent, yes. With darker skin, you're more protected against sunlight, but it still ages your skin.
Okay.
And it doesn't give you complete protection.
It doesn't, okay.
So I think still would be sensible.
What factor do you think for darker skin people?
I would say probably 20, 30 would be probably reasonable, because it's a balance between vitamin D and too much sunlight. So you have to think about both, really.
Okay, all right. And your next tip? Sorry for interrupting you.
No, absolutely, anytime. The next one, I think clothes. So broad beam hats are very good. Loose clothes with long sleeves, long trousers, long skirts. So you don't get too hot, but at the same time protect your skin. Okay. And then when you swim, you can also put, especially for children, you can have swimsuits with longer trousers or longer sleeves as well, so they're quite good.
Okay.
Or men or ladies can, well, ladies is easy, you have a swimsuit, but for men, you can have long swimming trunks and a t-shirt, which is quite sensible as well.
Yeah, I think most of the time people just want to sort of take everything off and get that tan, don't they? But I suppose if you're being sensible, it's good to actually cover up.
Absolutely. Yeah. Depends on how much sunlight is around, really.
Yeah.
I think shade is generally quite good as well, so avoid direct sunlight if possible.
Okay.
And sunglasses, don't forget about sunglasses.
With the sunglasses, obviously you have all different types of sunglasses out there, and there's a cheaper brands and there's a more expensive. What do you actually have to look for with sunglasses?
We're talking really about the cataracts and protecting your eyes. So the ultraviolet protection, you just see whether it gives you complete ultraviolet protection. Okay,
so anything that says ultraviolet protection is good.
You still can't look directly at the sunlight, but just normally is okay.
All right then.
Another thing, it's important to reapply sunscreen because it washes off, and also when it's hot, people sweat naturally, and it also washes off sunscreen. So probably a good idea to reapply it every 1 or 2 hours, and definitely after you had a swim.
Brilliant. So safe sun tips there.
Absolutely.
And obviously, the sunshine is great for, as we know, it's great for our mental health. Some sunlight, so I think it was 15 minutes, I think once you said one time.
I would say so, yes.
Like without any protection, is that right? Is good for you?
Well, it depends on where you are and on what, in midday in Spain. And summer, it's probably not a good idea.
Maybe first thing in the morning, just get that sunlight.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. So later on in the day.
So we know obviously sunshine is good for us. It's got the vitamins that we need and everything like that. But then obviously you have to be sensible about what you do after that.
If it's very sunny, you still get sunshine through. You still have ultraviolet through the sunscreen.
Okay.
It doesn't give complete protection, just reduces amount of sunlight.
Okay. Anton, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I'm sure that's helped our viewers stay safe in the sun. Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting.
Well, everyone, now it's time to talk to the lovely Ursula Jones, who'll be showing us how to choose the right eyeliner for your eye shape.
We're talking about eyeliner today, Chris. So it's eyeliners to complement your eye shape. So I always say to people, there isn't a rule with the way you wear your eyeliner. If you're quite comfortable wearing it the way you wear it, great. But these are just ways of complementing your different types of eye shapes.
Okay.
So there are different types of eyeliners on the market. So we have ones like a gel pencil. We have ones like a kohl pencil, so you know these are great. They're quite soft on the skin as well. You have liquid liners, so you can hear in the pot, and then they come out, and they're very, you know, the type of look that you get compared to, say, a pencil. You can see the difference, it's quite shiny. And then you have these wonderful gel pots that you would use a brush with. Okay. So, and you can also use eyeshadow, you know, don't be afraid to use darker eyeshadows, especially if you're not confident in doing eyeliner, if you're not too confident to go straight in with the gel.
Yeah, those are quite
these are, it's a great way, and you can always correct it. And just to talk about ways of being able to plot your eyeliner, some people find that they can never get a steady line. That's fine. If you're going to go in with an eyeshadow, the best way is to steady your hand, so get a surface, there you go, and get a mirror, so any kind of mirror here, and then look down and place your little finger somewhere here on your cheek, and then you've got a steady hand, because if you're going in here, it's going to go everywhere. So you need to be able to balance your hand somewhere. So that's
good tip.
Good tip, thank you. So talk about the different kind of eye shapes. So here we have lovely almond eyes. So you can see here with almond eyes, what you'll find is they suit any type of eyeliner. Okay. You could have something quite winged, you could have something quite smudged, you know, you can go quite thick in the line, you could go quite thin in the line. The reason is because, you know, you might hear about people saying if you have an oval shaped face, you can get away with anything. It's the same with almond eyes, you can get away with anything. So the tips that I've done for complementing your eyeliner would be to bring it upwards and out and up. So you want to lift the eyeliner. So I've done it here, and you can see that I've lifted. If you wanted to bring this thicker along here, you could. You know, the choices are endless with almond eyes, so you're quite lucky if you have those shaped eyes. So that's almond eyes.
That's what you have, isn't it?
Yes. Lucky me. The next one is round eyes. So here we go. You can see we have a round eye here. And the key with a round eye is to, instead of bringing it up and out, here, you kind of want to just to make the liner a bit more straight here, and the reason is you don't want to accentuate the roundness of your eye, and also you wouldn't want to go too crazy thick one block line along the top of the eye, because that's just going to again accentuate how round the eyes can be. So I've done a little example here. So rather than the cat eye where it kind of goes up towards the brow, you kind of want to go out. Okay. Yeah.
And does that make your eyes look bigger then as well?
Yeah, it can do. I mean, there are other little tips that you can do with like highlighters, with like a champagne colour to accentuate the eye socket here. If you've got wider set eyes, you just want to be careful with how you're doing your eyeliner. You don't want to go all the way in, because it's just going to bring your eyes closer. Yeah. Okay, so that's round eyes. The next one I have is hooded eyes. So a big tip for hooded eyes would be to prime your eyeliner before you put any kind of eyeshadow or eyeliner in your eye. With a hooded eye, so you can see with myself and you, it's essentially this part here, the skin is further down on the eye. So when you close your eyes, you can't see this eye space here. You can't see this here. This is kind of coming over. So what people tend to find is when they put eyeliner on the top line, where they're blinking, it then leaves a crease across the eye because it's transferred. So a little tip with this is, I don't even know if this will pick up, but here on the waterline, you need to, they call it tight lining. So it's this bit underneath the eye.
Yeah, I know that. It's very ticklish when that's done.
It's a bit
just
scary.
right.
Yes.
Inside, not on the top, right underneath. Yeah.
So really what you would do is get something, you wouldn't use the liquid because that would transfer. And you could use a gel, but I would say if you wear contact lenses, don't use gels because it can transfer into the contact lenses and it will bother you all day. So something like a kohl pencil, like a harder kind of pencil, is to look down into a mirror that would be here, and then you would just run it and then wait a few seconds and blink, and then do it again. If you can wait up to 10 seconds, if it's a bit more creamier consistency, that will just prevent it transferring to the bottom waterline. So just let dry, blink, and then you can intensify it. You can, depending on how your eyelids sit, you can just go in slightly in the outer corner, but you can do this with any type of eye shape. I've just broken that. With any type of eye shape, but it really deepens the lash line, so it really gives that intense look. And the reason I say that for hooded eyes is because you're not going to get that telltale transfer mark, and especially if you prime, because depending on how heavy the hood is, it could still pick up. So if you prime, you're avoiding that.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that's hooded. And last but not least is a mono eyelid. I love mono eyelids. I think they just look beautiful. So this is where you have no eyelid space at all. So even when you close, you can't see this socket area here. It's essentially this part just all the way over. Again, similar to a hooded eye where you would have that transfer mark, because if you're putting eyeliner and then they rest their eyebrows, you're just going to get lots of transfer marks along here. So with a mono eyelid, the trick is doing a small cat's wing here. So you can see like I flicked it out slightly, and then with a blending brush or a smudge brush, you just want to, with a bit of eyeshadow, just blend it out, because that will be directly on the eyelid as opposed to the eyelid space here. And then you can smudge that out underneath the eye as well, and it just looks beautiful. You can actually do that with any kind of colour, because that's where you want to place the eyeshadow as opposed to underneath, because once the eyes are closed, it disappears. You can't see it. So yeah, just smudge that out.
That looks lovely, actually, that one.
Oh, good. So yeah, those are my tips.
Thank you so much, Ursula.
You're welcome.
Well, everyone, after the break, I'll be hearing Diana's very emotional story and how she's managed to overcome her trauma. But first, how many suicides occur in the European Union each year? Is it A, 35,000, B, 45,000, or C, 55,000? Tune in after the break to find out.
That particular day, school finished, me and my siblings were outside, all the other kids had gone home, and we were the only ones remaining. I was very close with my dad from the time I was born up until that age. That night, I remember I literally cried and I cried and I cried. There was a part of me that was longing for my dad. I just decided to run away because I didn't feel like I belonged. You know, when you're 14 and you're being introduced to boys, you don't really think anything of it, you know? And it was in that period where I was raped. I didn't know how to express myself. So more times I was just keeping everything in. I started having suicidal thoughts from 15 and onwards. So yeah, the suicidal thoughts continued.
Chrissy B, and my show is all about improving your mental health and being happy. Join me every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 10 p.m. on my channel Sky 203. Visit chrissybshow.tv for more information and subscribe to our YouTube channel Chrissy B Show. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chrissy B Show and on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone. Well, before the break, I asked you how many suicides occur in the European Union each year. Is it A, 35,000, B, 45,000, or C, 55,000? Well, the answer, tragically, is C, 55,000, with 6,000 of those taking place in the UK and Ireland. Well, somebody who has battled suicidal thoughts but lived to tell the tale is Diana Ojera, who's here to share her story. Now, just before we speak to her, let's take a look at this video.
Do you know someone who deserves a makeover and would like to tell their story? Perhaps it's someone who's going through a hard time, or is always thinking about other people and not about themselves. Let us pamper them here on the show. And you can even nominate yourself. Get in touch with us via our website, chrissybshow.tv, and you or your friend could be the next person getting spoiled and sitting on the sofa having a chat with Chrissy.
So as you can see, we love to treat our guests to makeovers, especially if they've been through a hard time and we feel that they deserve one. So here's a photo of Diana before And here she is now after we've enhanced her natural beauty. Welcome to the show, Diana.
Thank you for having me.
Lovely to have you on, my darling. So you're going to be sharing your story. It's quite a difficult thing for you to do today, and I really, thank you so much for coming on to share your story, because it is to raise awareness. It's the first time you're speaking about this on TV or publicly, actually.
Yes. Yeah.
So we'll take our time, and this, as I said, this is to show people that if you have been through something, you're not alone. There are other people that have been through what you're going through, what you have been through, but managed to pull through. And I think that alone is really something important that we should do on TV more often.
Yeah.
So tell us about yourself. The problems really started when your father left, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Well, I was 7, and I remember waking up that morning. He got us ready for school, me and my siblings. I was the youngest at the time, and we went to school like a ordinary school day, thinking that he would come and pick us up, because that's what he used to do. He would pick us up from school while my mum was still working.
So we're used to that.
Yeah. And so that particular day, school finished, me and my siblings were outside. We waited for ages and ages and ages. All the other kids gone home, and we were the only ones remaining. Then the head teacher realised that there was something wrong, and then she used her initiative to call one of our neighbours, who then became our childminder. And it was from then that, at first I didn't really realise it was that deep, but that night when I got home, immediately I was very upset, because I was very close with my dad from the time I was born up until that age. I had a very close bond with him. I was more close to him than my mum. And so that night I remember I literally cried and I cried and I cried. And I remember my sister, she tried to console me, but it was like it wasn't working. And I ended up crying myself to sleep.
I know you were very young at the time, but what was actually going through your mind? Did you realise that he'd gone for like...
I didn't realise he had gone straight away. It was only until my mum sat us down and she explained, but being so young, I didn't really understand what was going on.
Did you just feel like you were unloved or something?
Yeah. I just knew that for a while I was very upset, but I couldn't express what I was going through or what I was feeling inside, because I didn't understand it. I just knew that I wanted my dad, but there was no way of that happening, because he wasn't walking through the doors like he used to. So
I suppose it's like losing someone dying, really. So you've got them there one minute, and then all of a sudden they're not there. It's a grieving process, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I suppose that is what was happening with me and my siblings as well. We were grieving, but we didn't know that we were grieving. I mean, as a child, you don't really hear that word. So you don't know. You just go through the motions of it. And so I think that's probably where my depression really started from, the abandonment, and not knowing that it would have had such a huge impact in my life in years to come.
Okay. Yeah. There was something else that you also went through, something very traumatic when you were 14. Can you tell us about that?
Well, when I was 14, I suppose I wasn't happy. There was a part of me that was longing for my dad, and I couldn't really express that to my mum, because at the time I suppose she was going through her own stuff concerning him as well. So at 14, half of the time when I was at home, I also didn't feel a part of my family. I felt very isolated, I felt very alone. So one day, not to be spiteful, but I just decided to run away, because I didn't feel like I belonged. And in running away, I was staying at one of my friend's house at the time. We went to the same secondary school, and I had another friend as well, and she had introduced me to these boys. You know, when you're 14 and you're being introduced to boys, you don't really think anything of it, you know. And it was in that period where I was raped. I was in a situation that, one, I didn't even understand what was going on. I was in a situation that I knew I couldn't say no. It's funny, because even though I've come a long way from it, but it's still there, you know. When I was raped, I didn't actually know like that was taking place. It was only
when you say like you couldn't say no, was your life threatened in any way?
In a way, yes.
Okay.
In a way, yes, because at that particular time, I was oblivious to the fact that my siblings now and my family were out looking for me, and I didn't know that. So the guy that raped me had come across my brother, I assume, and they probably showed him a picture of me. I remember him saying to me like, "Oh, if you don't do what I say, I'm gonna somehow find your brother and let him know what you've been up to."
Okay.
So it was that fear that kind of then came into me.
Well, you were just a child as well.
Yeah, and I wasn't even ready to even return back home at that point. So I thought to myself, let me just, do what he's telling me to do. And it was until 2 days later, I returned home, and when I returned home, the whole family came together. It was then my uncles were asking me questions about what I was doing, and I told them what had happened, and then they asked me, did he force you, and I said, yes, he forced me, and that's when they told me that it was rape.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're doing really well, sweetheart, by the way. So from that incident that happened, how did your life pan out after that? Well, how did it affect you? Because obviously you're already dealing with abandonment from your father, then the depression, and now this has happened. Then what happened after that?
My whole life just went from up to down, almost like a cake just turned upside down. Had someone sat down with me and told me, or just spoken to me about boys, men, I think initially I probably would not have gone down that route. I probably would have used my common sense in that situation, if that were the case.
But they explained to you that it wasn't your fault as well, yeah?
Yes, they explained
You're 14,
to me.
what happened shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Because even if you'd known, these things sometimes, unfortunately, they do happen.
Yeah, they did explain to me. But my life, I didn't know what life was after that. My life was so distraught. When it came to school, I was bullied. I wasn't physically bullied, but I was verbally bullied. Some of the kids would say such horrible things. And when I returned back to school in year 10, I dreaded it. I dreaded it because it was like constant, every day. I always had someone come up, make a negative comment, saying something horrible. The boys especially, they were the worst. But I still found it in myself to get up in the morning, go to school, just carry on as normal. But inside, I was like screaming for help. Inside, I wanted to escape because I couldn't take it, because it wasn't just the fact that, okay, I'm being bullied at school. My siblings as well, they turned their backs on me. And so it was like, there was no one there, my siblings, my family, my cousins, my aunties, my uncles, there was no support. So I got to a point where I was in year 11, I did my mocks and everything, but then 2 weeks, just 2 weeks before my GCSEs, I was like, do you know what? I couldn't take it no more because mentally, I couldn't focus. Although I was trying very hard in my coursework and stuff like that, but I always needed extra help from a different teacher, more so than my actual tutor at the time. And so even with that caused the kids to pick on me more, and still calling me unnecessary names. Some of them would be like, oh, Diana, you're thick, and do you know what I mean? But they didn't actually know what I was battling with because I didn't know how to express myself.
Okay.
So more times I was just keeping everything in, but not realising what it was doing to me eternally.
Is that when you started having the suicidal thoughts?
Yes, I started having suicidal thoughts from 15 and onwards.
Okay.
I used to write my mum letters, just expressing to her that I'm tired of this world and, I don't want to be here. And it used to upset her, but there wasn't much that she could do, because she was going through it as well. Like, there was a lot of things that she was dealing with. And I suppose at the same time, I wasn't being considerate to her feelings because I was wrapped up in my own feelings. So yeah, the suicidal thoughts continued and continued and continued.
Did you attempt suicide?
At one point I did, but this happened more later in my mid-20s.
Okay.
So I'd thought about ending my life. There was many times when I was like, I would walk from school and I would just, you know, constantly be asking God just to kind of take my life, because I was not happy in myself. I think the emotional pain was very unbearable. I mean, had someone sat down with me to maybe tell me like these were the things that these were the emotions that you would go through, I don't know, maybe I would have maybe handled it a bit better. But there was no one there, like I didn't have no support, and I think that's probably why my suicidal thoughts grew and grew and grew.
So Dana, we've run out of time on this segment, so what we're going to do, we're going to bring you back after the break and we'll hear more of your story, okay?
Yeah.
All right, and so guys, do tune in after this. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone. So before the break, we were talking to Diana about her story, some of the terrible things that she's been through, and I have to say she's very brave to come on TV to talk about these issues. So Diana, you spoke about all the things that you've been through. I'm sure there was more, but obviously we're a bit restricted with time. How did you actually start to recover and finally get help? Because you mentioned before that there was no support for you, you didn't know where to turn to, family and friends kind of not there for you. So what actually happened when you finally opened up?
Well, what I did, I started to believe, like I think my faith kind of helped me, and in my faith helping me, I knew I'd always liked to sing, so I started singing, and over the years I found that singing became fairly therapeutic for me. In singing, it allowed me to escape. In singing, it allowed me to not feel what I was feeling. It would take away the negative feelings. In singing, it made me feel good. It gave me hope, and it also allowed me to get excited, you know, even when I was in the down times. But it was like the moment I started singing, nothing else mattered for me. Also, I started picturing myself being a different person. I started to do things here and there to help me with my confidence, like work-wise, you know, just trying little things here and there and allowing myself to come out of my comfort. That also helped. I eventually turned to counselling. I'd tried it before, but I wasn't mentally ready to go ahead with it. But I did get to a point in myself where I was like, you know what, if I don't start counselling now, then how am I going to like completely overcome this, you know? And it was good that I was already doing the things that I like that help with my mood. And so when I started the counselling kind of helped me realise why I was thinking the way I was thinking, why I would have the thoughts that I was having, how I would perceive myself as a person. It really, really helped me. Although I wasn't with them for a long time, but in the time that I was with them, every session that I went to always left me with something to think about regarding myself. And it was through that I learned how to then reflect a lot, and in reflecting also helped me. So now what I do, I set myself little goals, you know, for the week or for the month, and you know, whenever I achieve my goals, it doesn't have to be anything major, but it's something that I'm going to feel good about once I've achieved it, you know. And so these are the little things that have helped me.
Can I just ask though, what actually prompted you though? Because you're saying before you weren't getting the support, but now it's like you've discovered, like for example, your faith, the counselling, the singing. All of a sudden, you've got like all these different things that are helping you. When did you actually kind of make that decision, or did someone come to you and say, "Look, you need to get help"? What was that turning point?
The turning point really was for me when I was one day I was in my flat and I was sitting there and I was thinking and I was thinking and I was thinking, and I knew that I wanted more out of life. I knew that I wanted to like help others. I knew that what I was going through, it wasn't just me that was going through it as well. I knew that I had so much to give. The reason why I probably didn't do it before was because one, my confidence, I didn't have the encouragement, so I learned how to encourage myself.
Okay.
I learned how to have positive conversations with myself. I learned how to believe in myself a little bit more, and I learned how to just, you know, stop being afraid.
Okay. So now, where are things at the moment for you, would you say? Still on your road to recovery, would you say?
I'm still on my road to recovery. I'm at a point now, in terms of my mental health, I realise what triggers my moods now. Before, I didn't know what triggered them. So, like, 1 minute I would be okay, the next minute I wouldn't be. And I would never understand why that was. I knew I had depression and I knew I was suffering from it, but I couldn't put my finger on, like, what is triggering it now. But now I'm at a point where I know what triggers it, and so it's easy for me to now like come out of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Diana, how did it feel for you today actually to tell your story? Because like I said, first time, not only on TV, but to speak about this publicly. Are you glad that you've done this?
I am glad that I've done this, because at the end of the day, although it's my struggle, but my struggle can be a hope for someone else. And, you know, my struggle can encourage someone else that may be going through it or may have gone through it and just may still be stuck, you know. And just if I can help one person, then I think my job is done. It's not about me. I look at it like your pain or your suffering is going to help someone else, to give someone else hope. So that's how I look at it. So I'm happy that I did come here today.
All right, Diana, thank you so much for being so brave and sharing your story today.
Thank you for having me.
And all the best for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, guys, so we're almost finished the program, but I do have a few tips for you right after this. Right, everybody, so now I'm going to be covering some tips on how to stay mentally strong in tough times. So the first point is to actually face reality. So if something bad has happened to you, you need to acknowledge it. It's already happened and you can't change the past and what's taken place. But if you start dealing with what happened in a very negative way, then the negativity will just actually continue. So of course, initially you may be in shock, you will feel angry, you'll probably be very emotional, you're human, that's normal, but it's not safe to remain in that situation. So if you're constantly telling yourself, for example, this shouldn't have happened to me, I didn't deserve this, I won't be able to move on, you'll never actually be able to see a way to turn your life around. And I use my mum as an example about this, because when my dad got cancer, it was a really big shock for everybody. No one in our family had gotten cancer before, there was no history of it. And he was actually the first person that we had experienced it with. And we were expecting him to recover, to have his chemo, everything will be all right. And then that didn't happen. So within 2 years, he died. And it was such a shock because, for example, my mum, she got married to my dad when she was 17. And they were married for over 40 years. And to be honest, I was a little bit worried. When he actually died, I was quite worried about how she would live her life, because literally she was almost just sort of come out of childhood, and she'd been with him all her life. So it's like that was all that she knew. Being with him was all that she was used to. So I was thinking to myself, wow, it's going to be difficult for her to adapt, and how is she going to adapt? So it was a bit of a concern of mine. But I saw how, yes, of course, there was a grieving process. She was angry at first. She was upset. She had those nights of, crying every night. And it was a very difficult stage. But then I saw a strength in her, and she kind of formed this attitude that, okay, it's now this has happened. I can't change the past. I can't change what's taken place. Okay, it was a horrible thing that happened, but I need to move on with my life. And she started with small things that started to go out, started to spend more time with family, with neighbours. And actually now she's quite independent. She's very independent. She learned how to do things that she didn't know how to do before. It's like she learned a different way of life. Before she was very dependent on my dad, and now she started to kind of become more independent. She even learned she didn't know how to use emails. She didn't know anything about Facebook and all these kind of things, and she learned everything. And for me, that was so good to see that actually, even though you're used to a certain way of life and then something happens that you're not expecting, but yes, you're going to have your time where you need to maybe grieve or adapt and things like that, but you can actually then start to live a new life. So, you know, of course, yeah, again, we have to face the reality, but it's also about recognizing what's within your control. And when you can't control the situation, you need to actually focus on controlling yourself and working on yourself and moving on after that. The second point that I'd like to talk about is to control the negative thoughts. So your mind can actually be your best friend, or it can be your absolute worst enemy. So you really need to filter the kind of thoughts that go on in your head. And sometimes we can get into this cycle of not actually realizing that we're kind of even talking back, we're having a conversation with negativity. So when something comes into your mind like, oh, you know, you're never going to move on, and you have that kind of thought, and then it's like, instead of maybe kind of cutting that thought off and say, actually, I am going to move on, I'm going to have a new life, then you sit down and have coffee with this negativity and say, yeah, it's true. How am I going to move on? It's impossible. I feel like this. I'm going to feel like this for the rest of my life. And you kind of embrace that thought when actually that you can do something about it. As soon as it comes, you can counteract it with something positive. I will move on. My life will change. I'll find the help that I need. And you know, it's so important that you actually pay attention to the kind of thoughts that you're having. The third point. Now this one I know some people are going to think like, yeah, right, you can't really do this, but see the negative event as a learning experience. So something negative has happened. Yes, it's not a nice thing to go through, whether that's losing someone, whether that's something that, like what Diana went through, something that you weren't expecting, a change in your life, a sudden change that you weren't expecting. It seems like there's nothing good that can come out of that. Well, actually, as Diana even mentioned, there's something that you can take from that and use for something positive. So whether that's to help other people, whether it's to actually prompt you to do something different with your life, to do something that you'd never thought of. So maybe if that negative thing hadn't happened, you would never have considered something else in your life that actually could work out really, really well. So though it's hard, though it might seem like a very dark time, if you keep your mind as positive as possible and actually think, okay, what can I take from this experience? What can I use this experience to better my life now? Because I can't change what's happened. I can't change the past, but I can change what the rest of my life is going to be like. Well, everyone, we have reached the end of today's program, but don't forget, if you have a story that you would like to share, or maybe you even know someone that you feel deserves a makeover, maybe they've been through a hard time in life, or maybe they work too hard and they don't take any time for themselves, then do get in touch with us. You can email us on info@chrissybshow.tv. You can also tweet us at Chrissy B Show, or leave a message on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. And if you'd like to know more about me and how I beat depression and panic attacks and had full recovery, you can visit my personal website, mylifeafterdepression.com. Until next time, bye-bye for now.